All right, Celia, good morning. So we're recording now. So this is
Okay.
good. Okay. But yeah, so I was just saying to you is your pathway to success and what you want to achieve is not, for the most part, it hasn't been linear anyway, because you didn't just start saying, yeah, I'm going to be an Olympic weightlifter because, well, it just seems like it's going to be so easy. And
Seems easy.
yeah, strong women who are amazing, that's just a natural. And, but that's almost made your path, it's almost cemented your determination of, yep, that's what I want. Whereas for most people, I think, in my experience of being 46, since I use that as a negative, I'll use it as positive, they let that go. They let that dream go, that goal, or that they're like, okay, it would be nice if it just was given to
Right,
me,
but it's too
but
hard.
it's too hard. And we understand, like, too hard is a subjective term,
Mhm.
and it's too hard. Yeah, if you don't want to do any work, then everything's too hard. Like finishing college at a university that's not easy is hard
By default, hard, yeah.
by default. And then again, being, how many hours is it away from New York? 12 driving,
It's like a 12-hour drive, 10, 12.
really close to home, so you can just drive home any minute that
Be
you're
home
super
whenever.
sad. Um, and you have a good relationship with your family, so it's not even like you were like super geek to get out of there.
Mhm.
So these are the
No,
things, like,
definitely.
that's why I like these connections, is because pretty much within probably the second day I talked to you, I was just like, I could, like, you exude that. And some, well, and I like when we had that one conversation, and I wanted to make sure I told you that, because that is who I am choosing to always be around from now on, because I I gave up I changed my beliefs to match my actions so many times in my life, that, of course, at some point I always came back to, why am I doing this? Well, everybody does that, well, why am I choosing this when you get that challenge? And you you almost said, I'm doing this in spite of how I naturally view myself, or my normal go-to self-esteem, or, like, you almost use that as, nice, I got upset with myself, let's roll. Which is so, like, you've embraced that. And, like, before we got on camera, I said one of the things I think I liked so much about you is that you live within your duality of beast and burden at the same time. Like, what makes you so powerful, what makes you so driven and fun to be around when you're training, because it's a little intimidating, because you're so focused. And there's me, like, hopping around talking, and you're like, listen, you can talk to me, I'm not going to acknowledge you while I'm getting ready to lift. And I'm like, that's so cool.
Nicest way possible.
But I love that you were just like, you looked at me and you went, yeah, I'm not going to acknowledge you. Like, Hannah is so nice because she'll always acknowledge you. I'm not giving you the time of day. Okay. And I'm like, cool to know. So, I mean, I don't, I was just hoping that maybe you could shed some light on how that's come to be, or, how you're able to do that. Because, like I said, I think that's such a quality that's going to make you successful at absolutely anything you choose to do. That, because everybody wants the life hack and wants the hack of what's her secret. I'm well aware that it's not a
If somebody could give me
secret.
one, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. Like, oh, like a button, like the easy button from whatever that commercial was. I would love to have any of those buttons. It doesn't even have to be that big. I can search for it. That's cool. But they just don't exist. That's not how success or fulfillment. I'll even say fulfillment, because you've had success in at a higher stage of competition since you were young.
Mhm.
Well,
Depends how you define success, but yeah.
Well, so yeah, I guess like then that's a great place to start maybe. Excuse me. So how do you define success? Yeah, I think it's a great place to start.
It's a slippery slope.
I know. And that is it's a moving target. I'm well aware.
I think for me, success would probably, it's defined as, it's hard because
It
it's
is
more than
hard.
just accomplishing, at least for me, it's more than just accomplishing a goal. Like I guess I'm in a constant pursuit of success because I don't know. I think there's something to be said for like stopping and smelling the roses, but I don't know if there's ever going to be a point in my life where I look around and think, all right, this is success. Like I'm satisfied. Something that I work with all the time with my therapist, and something that I'm constantly kind of trying to hone in on is my ability to not fear like complacency and laziness, and how to like not interchange the two ideas. So
Ooh.
it's difficult. Like it's okay to be happy with where you are, but I think that just because of, for some crazy reason, who I am, I have this fear of like being lazy and being complacent, and that if I am, then I will like not be able to keep striving for greatness. So yeah, I think the success question kind of falls on that, where it's fighting myself to say I'll be successful when, because that's not really the case. I think it's more of, for me, it's when I'm able to appreciate what I've done and still set more goals.
I think that's awesome. And I a lot of times I think society has gotten it wrong, in my opinion, once again, but it's that success is a outcome base. And it's not really, because like Simon Sinek does the, infinite mind, which is it's life. If it's a real game, then there's a winner, a loser, there's a time frame, like, but when you're playing game of life, you don't know who the players are. You don't know when the game is over. You don't know when, I mean,
Right. I
it's,
think success is more of a state than a destination,
oh,
which is something that which is something that I can say, but obviously, like everyone else, I'm still kind of learning how to implement that.
and but what I like is that you are very, I don't even like saying the word forthright, because that's, I feel like I'm in the 20s or something, but you're very comfortable with being a work in progress, is if that makes sense. And to me that is refreshing, because a lot of people who are intelligent, beautiful, oh by the way, extremely high level athlete, goal driven, like all these other things are not also usually, yeah, I'm not a complete product yet. You know what I mean? Like that's not
No,
their first,
definitely.
that's not their first, like, hey, look at all this wonderfulness of me and all this stuff that's, you don't sweep stuff under the carpet.
Right.
And I think that, like you said, having a therapist, it's part of that journey.
Yeah. Forces you to reflect a lot.
And so, if you hold on, I wanted to finish that because I just got excited, because I think that made a huge impact on me. Is like I had this idea of you because I knew of you from CrossFit games, or in CrossFit, and from Alexis. And then the first time I actually came to the gym, well, the first time I met you, you were doing a really hardcore training session, and you had already gotten there. And so you were in your zone, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense that that's her. Okay. And but then within 20 seconds of talking to you, that smile popped out, and I went, oh, okay. And then you smiled and your eyes disappeared, and I was like, okay.
Yep.
And but
Yeah.
I think, but yeah, and that's one of those things is I look for people's journey because that's the connection, that's the humanity we all have. That you get a lot of people who seem always put together, but yet most of the time, most people, even if they're super successful, are like, God, I'm such a fraud. If people really knew. You're like,
Yeah.
everybody does know because we're all thinking the same thing. Success is a state of mind, not a destination. That's what I wanted to finish right. So that reflection, how does reflection, would you say, reflection helps you work on that state of mind of success? By the
Another
way,
good
that would be a great name for a book.
Yeah.
Just FYI, success is a state of mind.
Done. Book deal. That's another good question. It's kind of, I think it's two-part because I think in the past reflection has also hurt me. I tend to not let go of things easily, especially when it comes to my own perceived success. So, like, for example, after I finished fifth at the games, I was like actually angry at myself for at least a year. Like, I could not let it go. Anybody would say anything about the games and I would almost immediately go to tears or just be pissed. Like, I did not allow myself to have any joy in that
Oh,
until a year later, at least. And right after the games, a group of us had gone straight to the Olympic Training Center and done like a camp. So it was very easy for me to compartmentalize and be like, all right, on to the next. But I never really dealt with it. So I think in that sense, reflection has hurt me because I would just, like, every night, although I wouldn't talk about it during the day, every night I would just replay each event that I did poorly in over and over. And I work really hard to not do that now as I've transitioned to a weightlifter after meets, but fighting that urge is still really, really hard. But I think reflection can also be a really good thing when you're willing to look at positives also. So,
and I think that's a huge growth thing right there. It's instead of just looking at one side of it, it's that duality. There's positives.
right. I was under the impression that in order to get better, you could never forgive yourself for a mistake. You had to, like, not only learn from
Oh,
it, but you had to, like, feel the pain of it in order to move on. But it's something that I've learned is not true. And I mean, I just had a meet a couple months ago and I was not at all satisfied with how it went. But through a lot of the work I've done with my therapist, I was able to look at it and say, there were positives. Like, I won. That's good. I'm allowed to be happy about that. I didn't hit a total that I wanted, but the fact that I'm unhappy about that means that I'm confident in myself that I can do more. So that's a positive, and kind of things like that. I mean, I need to work on my consistency in snatch. I need to work on my consistency in jerks. So
yes. If it
kind
was
of,
all cleans, you would win all the time. Yes, it would be. It
I,
would. It would be happy. Um, and it's funny because I remember when you came back, the first thing I said to you. Now, of course, I'm like, oh, but the first thing I said to you was, you had that jerk because literally your dip, your drive, it was over your head pretty much. But it once again, and I wasn't saying it as disparaging. I was saying it as most people probably ignorant to the process that goes into your head, and you're like, thanks, Captain Obvious. I have instant replay in my own head. I don't need your 20,000 foot view of it. But and it's funny because, like, the reason I was saying that, it's this what you just said. It's that because I'm confident in your actual ability, as opposed to, why didn't you make that lift? It was, oh man, you have so much more. So I come from, probably from my years of therapy, come from that positive point of the confidence of, wow, like, yeah, that's cool that you're not satisfied because you're aware that you're like, yeah, it's in you, which is cool
right.
because
And
then,
that's something that I'd never felt before, but I didn't understand that that could be a positive thing. Like,
yeah,
the fact that I was so angry, I could use that not in a self-deprecating way. That
that's
was
so
important
good.
to learn.
See, and I think that is why you're going to being able to harness it is why you're going to be successful.
Mm.
Not just that you have that, but that you're able to work and harness it. I like that though. That's so cool. So what have you been doing? Let's say mentally, because I know because congratulations, you're graduating tomorrow
Yay.
when you ace that test, which is going to happen. Really, as long as you don't bomb the test, I think you're pretty much. I mean, as long as you paid for stuff, usually they're like, you've done what you asked.
Right. I mean, I'm crazy. And even though like all of our grades got switched to pass fail, I'm going to uncover all of my grades because I
That's
can't.
just what I know.
I can't accept the P, but
Oh, so many reasons I like you. Oh, so then, like you said, it's been a transition. How would you say you've fared? Not necessarily comparing yourself to people, but like with any of your friends or what stuff that they've talked about or things that you've noticed.
as far as like what's going on,
Yeah, about like having to be adaptable.
right. I was saying before, I think that I'm incredibly lucky in this time just because I've been able to keep a pretty consistent routine. Um, Before coming home, when I was at school, I was like my focus was on training and eating anyways. So it's kind of very similar. I train twice on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so that definitely eats up a lot of time. Um, and just I do schoolwork, go to the gym, my dad's house, come back. Like it's been really nice, and I feel as though not that I can't complain, but I'm healthy, so my family's healthy. I'm in a home that's like loving and I enjoy being in. And so I think that I'm really, really lucky. Also, having siblings is so helpful right now because I know a lot of my friends who are only children, like two of them already went back to school because they were like, I can't be alone with my parents for any longer, which is fair.
Yeah.
Um, but as much as my sister and I fight and I'm sure drive all of my parents crazy, it is nice to have somebody to kind of play off of. And she actually trains too. So we have to train at different times because otherwise chaos
Yeah. I would.
and
Yeah.
one barbell. But it's nice that we're in it together. It doesn't feel like I'm alone.
That's huge. I like that.
I feel like I can't even compare myself just because I'm so lucky with my situation.
And to me, that's another thing is for how old are you exactly?
I'm 22.
Yes. For being a deuce, the stuff you've gone through has not just gone through, but the stuff that you've chosen to work on has created this gratitude person who who's aware of their blessings and how lucky they have it and this and that. And I think that's one of the things too is I was drawn to pretty much immediately is a lot of people who have a therapist or a lot of people who work on themselves and have honest self-reflection for good and bad or happy and unhappy. I won't say good or bad because that's whatever, but it's the ability to utilize all that stuff they've gone through to use it as a way to look at life and a way to look at situations. And I was going to, as long as you were able to train, I knew you would be fine.
Yeah, that
Not
was
even
the
fine.
biggest thing. I was like, I stayed in Ann Arbor until the gyms closed, and then I was like, all right, now I gotta
Yep.
leave. And I switched coaches recently, but my previous coach is from Connecticut, from my town, and he's been incredible in letting my sister and I take like barbell weights. My sister and I like ordered a squat rack from the sketchiest website I've ever seen. I should not have put my credit card information in it, but in the moment I was like, yep, we need a squat rack because that has to happen. Um, but yeah, so I was like, as long as I can train, I'll be fine.
Yes. Well, and yeah, and I think that's a big thing is everybody who I've spoken with and I've done these interviews with, because like when I reached out to one of my friends who's an assistant coach. She played collegiate soccer and she's assistant coach for a university, Concordia. That's by Ann Arbor area,
Yeah, I
and
think
in Ann Arbor, I think maybe.
Mhm.
And she, I interviewed her, and a lot of her what she talked about was the reflection, but also just being that the mindset is such a huge question, because she got stressed when I said, well, let's talk about mindset. She was like, oh my God, that's everything. And I didn't think that way. I think that's amazing, because mindset is, and we know, you know this, but it's how you view your circumstance is going to be how you view your training, or how you view your eating, or how you view, do you know what I mean? Like people think, oh, I can compartmentalize really, really well. And you might be able to for a minute and for a bit. But because we are a whole person, we have five senses to try to make sense of what the external is telling us. And it's going to come out some way, whether we want it to come out good or bad or positive or negative or whatever, it's going to come out. And so, like you said, that's when you have to be aware of the way you view something, because that reflection is going to be used. You're going to use it against yourself, or you're going to use it for your good.
Yeah.
And to me, when she said, yeah, mindset is a whole thing, like when I started talking to you, you're like, oh man, this book and this book and this book and this guy and this guy's awesome. And I was like, I'm going to keep you. Because um, you get, we'll just say something as simple as freshmen, who might not be in the same boat, even though they're dedicated, they eat pretty good, they sleep pretty good, they don't go partying because they know Saturday mornings they're going to be at the gym at 9 a.m. And so most typical college people would still be like, wow, they are pretty strict. And yet they're not. Yeah, I get to, and I know I've always heard you say, oh, I get to do 2-a-days. All you people are freaks like that. Like, I'm an elite coach and I could coach 20 times in a day. It's great. Working out, I'm like, I worked out this month, didn't I? Like, am I good? Like, where are my abs? Does that work? I did sit-ups once. No. And but that's the way you approach stuff, but not. I hope people get out of this, and when they listen to you and when they meet you, how it is an effort. Like things, like making good choices becomes easier, but never effortless.
Right. No, you choose to.
Yeah,
Choose.
you do.
Yeah, no, when I first kind of started, I don't want to call it this like mindset journey, but because I was very into CrossFit before I got to college, and choosing to go away to school was definitely a hard decision for me, just because I grew up at my home gym. That was my only, I love my family and I love my parents, but I had accepted that I was probably going to have to leave them. It was leaving my gym that was really the hardest, and just leaving my coach. I was terrified that I would not be able to train at the same level on my own without him. And the Wolverine is incredible, and Mike, Landon, there was an old coach, Sarah, like they were all always so like, encouraging of me and welcoming, and they let me do whatever I wanted. Like my training still kind of got that prioritization that I felt it needed. But it wasn't until Mike at the gym started talking to me about mindset that I really understood it. And I mean, my coach knew I was a head case, but I was 17, 16, 17, 18. You can't teach a teenager to want to fix their mindset. So one of the first books I read that I gave you talks about just making that choice. And I remember my freshman year, I used to get up at like something stupid to train. And every morning I would literally repeat in my mind, you get to go train, you get to go train. And when you do that enough, it just, I mean, this summer I was up at like 4 or 3 days a week to train because I had to do it before my internship. And You figure it out. You make it work. Because you do get to train, and there's a lot of people who don't. But
That makes me so happy. Because that's one of the, like, having been sober for 29, almost 30 years, that's one of those, like, at first it really was, I can't, all the stuff I couldn't do. Well, I can't go party with normal people. I can't go, and then when you hear the words, you're like, wait, with normal people? Normal people weren't stealing cars, and normal people weren't, like, their hearts weren't stopping because they were ODing. Like, that's not normal people, but let's just throw that in the mix to make myself feel even worse. Like, that's what I would do. And you're right, at 17, which is when I went on the journey, it was, wait a minute, I get to possibly have a future. I get to have a family. Oh, and then it like you said, doing and saying it enough and doing it enough and practicing that, it does become a lot easier, because it is pretty simple. It's simple to sit there and say, oh, I get to go do this. I get to get up at 8 on a Sunday during quarantine to go do an interview with somebody who I don't get to see very often. Like, I got super excited, and I was like, ha 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 ha. And I mean, I'm like that anyway, but I got really excited even on a Sunday morning, because it's one of those things that's how I tell myself. That's the internal dialogue I have to work on having, because otherwise my natural state is a negative, lacking, like, poverty mindset of, well, I don't have enough, as opposed to, I have so much more than I even need. And
no, it's huge.
it is huge. And I think that's one of the things, because of however I was made, in once again, I think God's got a super big sense of humor. My brother's 6 foot tall. I'm 5'5", and that's just hysterical. And this is my voice, so that's another fun thing against me. But is that I pretty much, by the second time I met you, I could tell that. And I like that about myself, like, a lot. But for a long time, it was almost weird, like, oh, I feel like I'm close to somebody, or I know them. That's just weird. I don't know. I can't, you can't know somebody in 2 times you're meeting them, and like, after 20 seconds they smiled, and I'm like, oh, I think we're going to get along. That's not usual, I don't think, which is sad, because one of the things I like, and when I say I like, I don't take me the wrong way, I am very grateful for that a lot of people are able to be present to do this stuff now, because they're like, well, yeah, like, let's break up the day. I have something to do. I get to get on an interview. Whereas, like, I asked one of my friends, who is one of the most like, he makes me seem kind of calm. I mean, he's not like Mike outgoing, but he's pretty outgoing. And I said, hey, I'm doing these interviews. You want to do one? He goes, oh, me and cameras, no. Like, on text, I could feel him almost want to throw up. And I was
Yeah,
like,
no, it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people to be in front of a camera all day long, every day.
yeah. Well, and what I like is, I forget that. That's why I'm still doing, like, that's why I'm still doing this. And the only time I realize that I'm in a camera is when I look up. I'm like, wait, why is my head so little? My hands are so big. Oh, that's right. It's the camera. But for me, I think by me starting my journey of wanting to just reach out to people, which is not necessarily a usual thing for a 46-year-old man to say, you know what, I feel drawn to you. I want to make a connection, and let's record it. Just saying it that way is a little, like, weird.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. But the reason why, like, I've always been a different thinker. Like, you are a different thinker, and it's taken you at least 5 years for you to understand that difference, whether you like it or not, some days is part of you. And for the most, like you said, so how do we deal with it? And which is, hey, I get to go train. I get to go do this. I get to graduate, and like, when I interviewed Lily, she said, we're not going to go to prom. I'm not going to walk. I don't get to do that stuff, but I'm graduating. And I was like, once again, 17, what? Like, I wasn't there at 17, and so that's kind of why I was excited to do this, so that people can know you, because like I said, people can have an opinion. Maybe everybody's got an opinion, but people can have an opinion because they see this, like, all these wonderful qualities, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do this, and I don't really talk about what you hope to get into, just in case I'm not supposed to. So, but you want to do cool things. And it's like, for me, just letting somebody know that, yes, this opinion of you is great and wonderful, but the whole part of you is the part I like, I think is a big deal.
Definitely.
Because if, you don't judge somebody when you're on a first date. You shouldn't probably marry. I'm not going to say shouldn't. I know you're not supposed to say shouldn't, but I'm going to say shouldn't. It's probably not a good idea to marry somebody on a first date. Because you're trying to act how you think that person wants you to act.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to work out with somebody if you're having the worst, if you're annoyed with yourself and you can't stand to be around yourself and the other person is still putting up with you. That's when you're like,
Yeah,
this
that's a
might
good
not be a bad idea. And I think that's what I like about me, is that I don't necessarily see surface stuff. I see what it takes to be that person that is being shown on the surface. And I think it's also a huge testament to your growth that you have worked so hard to be, and I'm using the term comfortable lightly, but that you embrace both sides of your duality, and as being your whole, because it really is. That's like saying, boy, I love my back. Well, you're missing 50%, the front part. Like, what? That's kind of weird.
Yeah,
So
no, it's a work in progress.
it is, and the fact that it's a progress is good, because it's also work.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't just come natural. Like, you doing, what'd you do, 115 for 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that takes a little bit of work. And and I like the fact that you said you weren't even necessarily happy with it because you had to stop. But I love the mentality of why it was important for you to stop there, because
Yeah.
your brain would be like, let's PR every day.
Yeah, I so last week, this is good, people will understand. Or 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to build on snatches, and I was for a snatch double, and I hit the weight that I was supposed to hit, but I didn't like how the second one looked. So I decided to continue trying it for another probably like 30 minutes, and I kept missing. And then I
Celia.
dropped it on my like shoulders, and it just splatted me. So I learned, and I knew that I had this issue with myself where I don't know when to stop the chase. But I learned that probably you should just listen to the coach, and you get 3 attempts, and that's it. So with the clean and jerks, it was big for me to not keep going.
But I like that, though, because it is. I like that.
Yeah, there comes a point where it's not worth it. It was not worth it for me to get one more rep if I was going to actually hurt myself.
Yeah, because then it prolongs everything else, and then you can't train, and then I'm sure you're going to be a real peach to be around. Ah, yeah, I'm great. Now I don't even have school, and I can't train. Yeah, and that's when they're like, we're going to pay for you to go to grad school right now. Like,
Yeah.
bye. Pick a school and go. Bye. So, well, I do appreciate taking the time. I'm going to stop recording and then just talk for a minute or so. Is there anything else you would like to add besides all the amazing stuff that you said?
No, I think I'm good. Hope anybody watching is safe and healthy.
Thank you.